Hey guys, so today we're going to be looking at how to make Tonkotsu Ramen. Now I know a lot of people get really nervous about this, but I promise you it's not as hard as it looks, and by the end of this you're going to be rewarded with this beautiful, creamy, rich pork broth. It is going to be the best thing, so let's go ahead and jump right on into it. I am so excited. So the first thing you're going to do is grab yourself a big stock pot. Now, I don't know what size this one is, but this is the biggest one that I had. So make sure you get yourself a really big pot. Now go ahead and throw in your 2 kilos or about 4.5 pounds of pig feet or pig trotters. Fill it up with some water, maybe cover about an inch over the top of the feet, and set that aside and let that get to a rolling boil. Next, it's time to prepare our aromatics for the soup. So go ahead and grab yourself a head of ginger. I think this was about maybe 100 grams of ginger. I'm not too sure. I just went to my supermarket and I grabbed whichever one looked really nice. So go ahead and grab that. Chuck it aside. You don't have to peel it or do anything special with it because we're only going to be putting it in the soup just to flavor it. So put that aside. And next, grab your green onions and start chopping those up roughly. Now, if you didn't know, you can actually hang on to these root bits. You can put them in some water and they will just regrow again, so you can use those for later. So make sure you hang on to them. Go ahead and chop these up. They don't have to be anything special. Just chop them up. I mean, don't tell them that. I'm sure they'd appreciate to know that they're special. So just go ahead and put those in the bowl. Struggle like I did to actually fit them in a bowl. Maybe grab a bigger bowl next time. And I went ahead and tied these up so I could keep them for later so I could use them for garnishes. But you don't have to do that, but I don't like waste, so I went ahead and kept those. Grab yourself 2 onions and a handful of garlic. I think I had about 4 cloves here. And don't forget to check on your soup to make sure that it's still at a rolling boil. That's really important. Go ahead and slice up your onions. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because you are just going to be charring them and putting them straight in the soup for flavor. So the only thing you should do is definitely peel them and make sure there's no skin on there or any of the roots left on the onions. As you can see with my onions, I'm just chopping them in half and then in half again. And if you didn't know, you can hang on to the onion skins so you can use them as veggie stock for later. Go ahead and freeze those. Keep them in a Ziploc bag so you can make yourself some really hearty vegetable stock later on. Now go ahead and smash your garlic with the back of your knife just to get rid of the skin, and you can peel those. Again, you don't have to chop these, they're just going to be going straight in the broth, so definitely don't need to chop them because they're just there for flavor. So go ahead and put your scraps in a compost or a bin, and now it's time to get charring. Get yourself your non-stick pan, pop it on the flame. And now if you guys are wondering why I'm using a gas stove on top of an electric stove, it's because my electric stove isn't that good. It's not very hot, so I prefer cooking with a flame. Please don't at me about it. I just think it's easier. So go ahead and char your vegetables. Make sure they get nice and brown. I would have liked a little bit of a darker color, but I was kind of on a time pinch, so I went ahead and finished it off there. Turn off the heat and set those aside. Okay, so now it's time to check in on our ramen broth. So see all that scum that's floated to the top? We've been boiling away the impurities. So go ahead and grab your big stock pot and a sieve or a strainer. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour that out. Now, this is probably going to be pretty heavy, so just be mindful that you don't hurt yourself or burn yourself or let the steam fog up your glasses if you're a glasses wearer like myself. So go ahead, pour that all out. Make sure that you don't miss anything. Maybe try a second time just in case and let them go everywhere like I did. I make sure you have a clean sink for this because I definitely made a hot mess. So go ahead and pour those into a strainer. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get a clean strainer to put them into and start running some cold water. Get yourself a cleaning utensil. I chose a very professional chopstick for mine. And we're just going to go ahead and scrub these nice and clean. I like to dig into the bones to make sure we get all the dirt and nasties out, but go through every single bone. It should only take you about 5 minutes. Just rinse those under some cold water, scrub them nice and clean, and what we're going to do after that is we're putting them straight back into their water bath so they can cook for a whopping 12 hours. I know that sounds like a long time, but I promise you, it is so worth it. So go ahead, cover that with water again, and once that is done, pop that back onto the flame so you can get yourself a rolling boil. And then we're also going to go ahead and add our veggies as well. Go ahead, add those in, and pop the lid back on and set that aside to start boiling for 12 hours. And make sure you check on it periodically as well. Now the pork belly. So this is my favorite part of this. So we're going to start preparing our toppings. So this is what you call a pork chashu. So what it is it's a big piece of pork belly that we roll up into a nice little meat parcel. That's like the most lovely way I think I can put this. We're going to roll it up and we're going to get some butcher's twine and tie it up. Now this I found to be a little bit tricky, so if you need an extra pair of hands, that is okay because these knots have to be pretty darn tight. So I'm sure there's probably some special butcher's knots that you can do to make this like super extra tight, but for me, I'm just a avid home cook, so it's gonna be granny knots all the way through. So I did 2 granny knots and I just cut off the excess and I went and set my meat package aside. Yep, that is definitely something I never thought I'd be hearing myself say on the internet. But anyway, let's continue. Go ahead and set your stock pot off to the side on a separate burner and go grab your nearest non-stick pan so you can do this. No, but seriously, grab your pan, pop it on the flame, and pop your pork in there just to sear the outsides, and it should sound a little something like this. Look, I never thought we'd become an ASMR channel, but that was some pretty nice pork crackle ASMR. Now I wanted to make a quick note on the butcher's twine that I used. I don't think it was very good, so make sure you get yourself some good quality butcher's twine because as I was frying my pork, it broke in a lot of places and I had to retie it. As you can see, I've poorly refolded my chashu, so don't make the same mistake I did. Make sure you get some good quality butcher's twine. Now it's time to make our bath for our pork, so let's go ahead and add our soy sauce. Now for this, I really did just measure with my heart. I truly did not think about how much I was putting in there, but a rough ratio for the soy sauce was about 2 cups, and no one come at me for using jarred ginger and garlic. I ran out of both, so that's what we're sticking with. So 2 teaspoons of that, and next we're gonna add some more of our green onions, chop those up roughly. Then add a good splash of cooking sake, and next grab your mirin and add 2 shots worth of mirin. I really didn't know how much that was, but I really hope you guys appreciated the meme. Next, go and add about 3 tablespoons worth of sugar. I just use caster sugar here. Go ahead and spoon that in there, and next go ahead and grab 4 cups of just plain old water, add that in there and make sure you give everything a good mix around. Oh, and don't forget to add your umami flavoring, which will be your fish sauce, so add a good few splashes of fish sauce and mix around all of that. And then we're gonna grab our pork chashu and place him in there in our little bath, nice and carefully. I had to hold the camera while I did this so you guys could see it. Place him in there, roll him around a little bit, get him nice and comfy, and guess where he's going? He's going straight into the oven for a good couple of hours or until the pork is nice and tender at 150°C or 300°F. Now let's talk about eggs. So I know a lot of people get really nervous about cooking soft-boiled eggs. I know it seems like a really daunting task, but I swear it's not that hard. I know millennials get picked on for needing to Google how to cook an egg, but I promise you, this method is pretty foolproof. So grab yourself a saucepan and fill it up maybe about half of the way, 3/4 of the way, just enough to cover your eggs with some cold tap water. Next, place your eggs in the saucepan in the cold water and get it up to a rolling boil. And once it hits a rolling boil, reduce it to a simmer and simmer it for 3 minutes. And boom, you'll have soft-boiled eggs. Next, we need to make our soy sauce egg marinade. So we're gonna go ahead and measure out 1/2 cup of mirin and 1/2 cup of soy sauce. So equal parts mirin and soy sauce. And then top it off with another cup of just plain old tap water. My kettle was full, so I figured I'd just use that because it was right there. Fill that up and set that aside until your eggs are done. Give it a good little mixy mix and go ahead and set it aside. Next thing you're gonna need is a container and some paper towels so we can peel our hard-boiled eggs. Oh, I shouldn't call them hard-boiled because these are gonna be the best soft-boiled eggs you've ever had. Get yourself a bowl of water. Normally I'd have ice in it to kind of shock them from cooking. I didn't have any ice available, so some cold water just had to do. Go and fish out your soft-boiled eggs so we can get ready to start peeling them. Now, this isn't a really great process. I'm not the biggest fan of peeling eggs. I'm not very good at it either, so I'm really thankful that none of these eggs decided to break on me and turn into fragments of egg. But the way I tend to peel my eggs is I will gently tap them against the counter just so I can loosen up the shells. I then start to peel from the biggest cracks out to the littlest cracks. I like to get my fingers underneath the skin to kind of help peel off the shell itself. But again, you can see it wasn't quite perfect. I definitely made some mistakes. So if you have any tips for peeling eggs, leave them in the comments below. But I'm gonna go ahead, wash that last egg off and set them aside in my little container. Go ahead and clean up your eggshells. Again, you can use these in compost, so keep those for later. Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate how our marinade fits so perfectly in this container? I did not plan for this to happen, but I'm so glad it did. Look at that. Put those in the fridge to marinate for at least an hour before serving. Oh, it's time for my favorite part. Let's have a look at making the tare, which is the base for our ramen soup. I want you to go and grab your bonito, which is your dried fish flakes, and some soy sauce, and also some mirin. For this, we're going to need a small saucepan. You're going to add a cup of soy sauce to the saucepan, as well as another cup of mirin. Now, I know a lot of these things probably aren't your normal pantry items that you probably stock in your home. So a lot of these things you can find at your local Asian grocer. All the mirin, soy sauce, etc., bonito, you'll find those at your local Asian grocer. Next, we're gonna also add a good glug of water. I'm not sure how much I popped in here. I'm gonna say it was about a cup, maybe 2 cups. And next, we're gonna add a handful of our bonito flakes. This is going to jam-pack our tare with a whole bunch of umami flavor. Go ahead, give that a good stir around, and essentially you're gonna boil it until it becomes nice and fragrant. And when I say fragrant, I really mean it's gonna be fragrant. Your house is probably gonna smell like fish. So open up some windows. Don't forget to check in with your assistant chef every now and again to make sure that everything is a-okay and above board for what we're doing today. It's clearly a very big recipe, and if it's your first time making this, it'll be good to have someone watching over you to make sure that you're doing it right. Also, don't forget belly scratches. That's very important. Next, we're going to set that aside and let it boil, and once it is done, we will be transferring it into a container while straining over the bonito flakes. We don't want to keep those. They can go in the bin as they have served their purpose and we don't have any more use for those. So go ahead, strain that and pop the container aside. Make sure you clean up any extra spillage. Pop a lid on it and you can set it aside in the fridge until you're ready to serve. And as you can see here with mine, I made a really big mess. So yeah, grab some paper towel, wipe up any spillage, pop a lid on it, and you can put it in the fridge until later on. Since you waited so patiently, it is time to be rewarded for all of your hard labor today, especially with the pork chashu. Go ahead and grab that out of the oven once it's been a few hours and it's fully cooked through. This might take a bit of a finessing to actually get it out. I struggled, I needed a spatula, so pop that out. As you can see, it is perfectly golden on the outside. Let's just take a look at that for a moment. My goodness. Look what you created. You did this. Oh my goodness. And not to mention, look at how creamy that pork broth is looking. I am so happy with how this is turning out. Next, we gotta get our soy sauce eggs prepared and look at that ooey gooey goodness and that beautiful marinade on the outside of those eggs. I mean, have you seen a better looking soft-boiled egg? I challenge you in the comments below. Let me know. Alright, enough playing around. Now it's time to prepare our last part of our dish, which is our noodles. So I just have store-bought noodles. I am a very busy person, so I don't have time to make homemade noodles. But hey, if you can do that, please go and do that. I'm sure they taste a lot better. Make sure you prepare your noodles as per the packet's instructions because every packet's going to be slightly different, so make sure you read over that and follow that down to a T. Next, you're going to strain them, pop them into a bowl and set them aside while we get another bowl ready with our tare. Now, this is personal choice. I personally like a really flavorsome broth, so I think I added about 4 or 5 tablespoons of tare, but again, completely up to you as to how strong you want that umami flavor to be. Grab yourself a ladle and pop your tonkotsu broth into the bowl on top of the tare. I promise you this is going to be the best broth you have ever tasted in your whole life. It's going to be so good. I mean, just look at it. Look how creamy it is. Oh my goodness. Now, don't make the same mistake I did and overfill your bowl because your noodles still have to go in there on top of all of your toppings. I think I filled mine right to the brim and it really proved to be a little difficult when I was trying to put it over on the table for my guests to eat. So go ahead and pop your toppings on. I started with my pork chashu. It wouldn't quite stay there, so I was kind of fighting with it. So I just kind of, plopped that, just plop that on there. That works, that'll do. Then go ahead and put the other little pork chashu cut into the bowl behind the first one. Now with the toppings, obviously we've prepared our soy sauce eggs, our chashu, but you can also go ahead and add some green onions and some nori. I had some sheets of nori here. I also usually like to add sesame seeds, and if you're a chili person, you can add chili oil, but really the possibilities are endless. Cut up your sheets of nori and place them gently behind the noodles. I kind of struggled to get mine to sit in the bowl nicely without kind of, disintegrating on me. So just lift up the noodles and sit it on top of them. It'll kind of help them stay upright. And there you have it. A beautiful, oh my God, a beautiful bowl of homemade tonkotsu ramen. Oh, wait, don't forget the green onions. I nearly forgot to sprinkle them on top. Make sure you put those on there. They're a great garnish and they also taste amazing. And you've done it. You did it. Take a moment, smile at the camera because you did this. You made this. I am so proud of this dish, but let's take a little bit of a closer look at what we made today.